And again, you're watching Sky News. Top stories. A 16-year-old boy has been killed in South London in the fifth suspected fatal stabbing in just a week. Voters are out in force as the US midterm elections get underway around the country in the United States. More on that in just a moment. And the Prime Minister has held crunch talks with her cabinet as speculation grows that a Brexit deal may not be too far away. As promised, back to the US, where voters are taking part in one of the most divisive midterm elections for decades, as Donald Trump faces the first real test of his presidency. If the Democrats make big gains in Congress, it could make the next 2 years of Donald Trump's presidency far more difficult for him. Joining us from Lubbock in Texas is the author Oliver McGee, who jumped sides from the Democrats to the Republicans, and from North London, American political journalist Beth Gardner. Hello to you both. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on the programme this afternoon. Oliver, to you first of all, why did you change sides? Remind us.
Well, I think it was all about authenticity, and that's what we see going on in Donald Trump running into this midterm elections. When we look at the electorate, which is about 1/3 Democrats, 1/3 Republicans, 1/3 jump in the aisle in the middle as independents. 3 out of 10 Democrats, 5 out of 10 independents, and 9 out of 10 Republicans feel that we are better off now than we were 2 years ago. They're feeling really great about their pocketbooks and wallets, and they tend to vote that way in midterm elections where there's really no other ideas coming forth. We don't vote ideologies, we vote our pocketbooks and wallets. And I think that's what's going to be the story today. The big story in 2018 has been the economy, and I think that we're going to see both houses taken by Trump by this evening.
Beth, the president on the campaign trail, he's using hope and fear immigration, hope in the form of jobs and the way that the economy is shaping up. And we heard there from Oliver, it's doing pretty well.
Well, yeah, it is. And it's interesting what Oliver says. I think the bulk of the Republican office holders and the sort of more traditional party establishment would have been very happy to run on an economic message at the moment, because the economy does seem to be humming along. But Trump really has chosen to push very hard on these sort of culture war issues, particularly immigration, that he saw as having been very successful and that were indeed successful for him in 2016, and has sort of gone back to, his favored mode of really throwing fuel on the fire of a lot of these, cultural divisions. And we really saw him particularly over the last couple of weeks after the mass shooting at the synagogue in Pittsburgh, after the attempted mail bombings of some of his political opponents. We really saw Trump sort of reject the traditional presidential role that we're accustomed to of the president sort of stepping up as a national unifier and a healer, and really preferring to sort of, amp up the sort of antagonism, the anger, the fear. He's been talking a lot about this caravan of migrants in Mexico, sending troops to the border. So, I think certainly the Republican Party would have liked to run on an economic message at the moment, but the chief Republican, the president, has muddied the waters quite a lot on that, and has really sort of preferred to stick with the issues that he's most comfortable with.
Okay, what about international unity, Oliver? Lots of issues there, ripping up the deals that have been previously done by President Obama?
Well, I think basically internationally, America First is really saying it's about American prosperity and international growth. I think what we're seeing right now with the $10 trillion of dollars that have been added to the U.S. economy, that pulls the rest of the world. Rising tide lifts all boats. We have 3.1% up in wages in America, and then also 3.7% unemployment is the lowest in 49 years. So when he takes that message abroad to Davos and to the G7, they are saying we're going to get on board with this fast economy and this fast capital, fast technology, fast growth, and fast trade, because there's good business across the board. And also in protecting international borders protects stressed national income. All countries are facing that right right now. So this is a good message to take abroad as an American foreign policy. And that's what's working right now. And I think American voters today are going to vote, yes, keep this going and not go into caravans and circuses and collusion dramas that the Democrats' plan is putting on the table right now. That's just not going to work.
Beth?
Well, congressional elections like these are generally focused more on domestic issues rather than foreign policy. But I do think that Trump's sort of smashing the China approach to international affairs, attacking allies and amping up the trade wars and that sort of thing is very much part and parcel of his persona. And it's a persona that, his base of voters really like and approve of. And he has sought to make these elections very much a referendum on him. He's said to his rallies and his supporters, pretend that I'm on the ballot. So I think that, what we will see, depending on the outcome here, if the Democrats are able to take a majority in one of the houses of Congress, and the House rather than the Senate looks like their best shot for that right now, that will be a repudiation of Trump that may either sort of, put a lid on him a little bit, or more likely, kind of get his back up and have him sort of, increasing the volume on some of his foreign policy stuff. But conversely, if the Republicans are able to hold both houses of Congress, he'll see that as a real validation of him. And I think you'll see Trump over the next 2 years even more unbound than we've seen him be over the past 2 years.
Yeah, Oliver, you're going to say, of course, that he is likely to hold on to both houses, which, as we were hearing from Beth, will give him a green light to do more or less exactly what he wants. But what if that doesn't happen? What do you expect from your president? He is known to be quite petulant when it suits him.
Well, I think the real message today, Kay, framing your question, is this is about the independents. The independents represent 1/3 of the electorate right now at about 34%, and that's the largest in history. And so as we look at this election, if it turns on a dime, this is like a tipping shot in a basketball game at the NCAAs. But if it does tip to the other side, I think we're going to be watching independents going into 2020. This is why I wrote my book, Jumping the Aisle, How I Became a Black Republican in the Age of Obama. It's all about the middle. And I think what we're going to learn tonight is how the independents moved. Were they voting their pocketbooks? Were they looking at ideology? Were they voting for capitalism over socialism? I think we're going to be watching that going into 2020. And we're also looking to see whether the closing argument of Donald Trump saying that this is about CODIS and POTUS, and then determining how the independents felt about that is going to be the message going into 2020. But we're going to learn a lot tonight about 2018. And I think that we're going to see just a slight tip in the close races, in the close game of the turnout of the independents saying, hey, we want to keep things going in the right direction, but we're going to give a message to the president for 2020. Talk to the independents, not just the right. And the Democrats, don't go so far left to socialism, because that's not working with the independents right now.
So the GOP do well tonight then, Beth. It looks as though you're looking at President Trump for another 6 years rather than just another 2.
Well, we'll have to see about that. But I think that you can be assured, and I'm sorry to have to remind you, that whatever happens tonight, the 2020 campaign starts tomorrow. And if you thought 2016 was ugly, and if you thought 2018 was ugly when Congress was on the ballot, it's going to be even, a greater level of intensity still. And I'm sure the mudsligging will be even more, as we run up to the 2020 campaign. These American campaigns drag on for years. And this one is sure to start 2 years in advance tomorrow, November 7th.
You're nodding, Oliver, there.
Yes, it really depends on who the Democrats put up. Right now, there's a whole slate of about 20 Democratic candidates that are going to be at the debates. So those are going to be the debates to watch. And really, that's when we're going to really see what the soul of the Democratic Party is. Right now, the soul is socialism. But we're going to see a lot of candidates trying to shift around and try to find out who's the brawler on the Democratic side to match the brawler that the GOPs have put up in Donald Trump. And he's a good brawler, too.
It's good to talk to both of you. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.